Donald Trump stood in front of the cameras and told the world exactly which golfers were still playing for LIV Golf. And he got it completely wrong. Not sort of wrong, not slightly wrong. He named a player who had already left the league months earlier, called him one of the guys doing great over there, and said it with total confidence in front of journalists who knew immediately that something was off. The President of the United States, who is actively hosting LIV Golf events on his own courses, did not know who was actually on the roster, but here's the part that nobody is talking about yet. This was not just an embarrassing slip. It revealed something much bigger about what is actually happening behind the scenes between Trump, the PGA Tour, and the Saudi League he keeps publicly defending. And when you put the blunder together with everything else that came out of that same press conference, the picture it paints is genuinely extraordinary. Stay with this. Because the player Trump named and what that player's story actually is tells you everything about where professional golf stands right now. The player was Patrick Reed. Trump said, and these are his actual words, "You know he is on LIV and he played great. Patrick Reed, on LIV Golf, playing great." Except Patrick Reed had not been on LIV Golf since August 2025. He played his last LIV event at the Team Championship, quietly resigned his membership and walked away without filing a lawsuit, without making a public statement, without any of the drama that had defined his entry into the league 3 years earlier. He did not call a press conference, he just left. And since leaving, he has been competing on the DP World Tour, winning the Dubai Desert Classic and the Qatar Masters, leading the Race to Dubai standings with 2,340 points, and rebuilding a career that his time in LIV had quietly eroded. Trump did not know any of that. He thought Reed was still over there, doing great. Now pause on that for a moment, because the question that nobody has properly asked is this. If the man who owns 2 of LIV Golf's tournament venues does not know who is actually on the roster, what does that tell you about how much anyone in a position of real power is actually paying attention to this league? The answer is uncomfortable for LIV Golf and everyone still inside it. Trump made these comments on April 30th, 9 days after the Financial Times reported that PIF was on the verge of cutting its financial support for LIV Golf entirely. The Wall Street Journal had used the phrase imminent closure. The league's Mexico City broadcast had gone dark for 3 hours. Reports had emerged that players and vendors were not being paid. And Trump was sitting in front of cameras defending a league whose roster he had not checked since at least August of the previous year. He also said something else in that same press conference that deserves its own moment. He said, and again these are his actual words, "I do not know what is happening with them." He was talking about LIV Golf, the man defending the league, hosting its tournaments, publicly pressuring the PGA Tour to accept its players back, admitted on camera that he does not know what is happening inside the organization he is advocating for. That is not a politician being diplomatic. That is a man who picked a side without reading the briefing notes. The Reed confusion is the most visible symptom of a problem that runs much deeper. Fox Sports, when they aired their opening LIV Golf graphic of the 2026 season in January, managed to misspell 3 player names in the same graphic. Phil Mickelson became Phil Mickelson. Dustin Johnson became Dustin Johnson. Martin Kramer became Martin Kramer. The graphic ran live for 2.5 hours before anyone noticed and had it deleted. LIV Golf players themselves spotted it on social media and flagged it. The league that has spent $5.3 billion building its brand could not spell the names of its own most recognizable players in a broadcast graphic. Trump calling Patrick Reed a current LIV member 8 months after he left fits perfectly into that pattern. This is a league that cannot generate accurate information about itself, not from its broadcast partners, not from its most prominent political supporter, not apparently from anyone paying close enough attention to notice when one of its headline players quietly walks out the door. Now, here is where the story gets genuinely interesting. Because Reed leaving LIV without drama, without a lawsuit, without public complaints, is the template that could define what happens to every other player inside that league over the next 12 months. Reed did not wait for the collapse to be confirmed. He did not wait for PIF to make a formal announcement. He read the situation, negotiated his exit, competed his way back into relevance on the DP World Tour, and positioned himself to be a full PGA Tour member by 2027. He was not the loudest voice leaving LIV, he was the smartest one. Sky Sports confirmed that Reed is eligible to return to PGA Tour events from late 2026 and will be a full member for the 2027 season. He resigned his membership rather than filing an antitrust lawsuit, which is what Brooks Koepka did before him. LIV's own statement about Reed's departure said simply that they were not able to come to terms with Patrick. That is the public record of the end of a relationship that cost the league significant investment, prestige, and a 2018 Masters champion. And Trump thought he was still over there, doing great. If this kind of verified breakdown is what you have been looking for, this channel covers every major story in golf with real sourcing every single week. We are pushing toward 1,000 subscribers, and every person who joins helps us keep going. The irony sitting at the center of all of this is almost too clean to believe. Trump is the most prominent public voice calling for the PGA Tour to welcome LIV players back. He said at the same press conference that they should all be accepted by the tour, that he wants to see Rory McIlroy playing Bryson DeChambeau, that he wants to see Jon Rahm play Scottie Scheffler. He described the Masters, which drew 14 million viewers on CBS, as proof that all the great golfers should be competing against each other. He was making the case for reunification with genuine passion and zero accurate information. LIV Golf's opening event of 2026 in Riyadh averaged 23,000 viewers. The Masters averaged 14 million on the same Sunday. Trump was defending a league whose most recent event reached roughly one viewer for every 600 that the Masters did, and he could not name who was currently playing in it. The fan reaction to the Reed blunder was immediate and unfiltered. The responses that circulated most widely were not charitable. One fan wrote that it was genuinely alarming that the man who keeps telling the PGA Tour what to do with LIV players does not know which players are actually in LIV. Another said that if the president is learning about roster changes from journalists asking follow-up questions, that tells you everything about how seriously anyone at that level is actually tracking the league's condition. Trump also said something that landed differently from everything else at that press conference. He said he could not skip work to watch golf. He said it with evident frustration, as if watching golf was the thing he genuinely wanted to be doing instead of running the country. Which tells you something about where golf sits in his personal priorities, but it also tells you something about why his information on LIV Golf's roster was 8 months out of date. He wants to watch. He is not reading the reports. Professional golf is in the middle of the most dramatic restructuring in its history. PIF has officially confirmed it will stop funding LIV Golf after 2026. The league has hired investment bank Ducera Partners to find new investors and build what it is calling a multi-partner model. The returning member program that brought Koepka back is closed. The next pathway for Rahm, DeChambeau, and the others has not been designed yet. Every player still inside LIV Golf is making a calculation right now about when to move, how to move, and what the terms will look like. Patrick Reed made that calculation in August 2025 and moved quietly before the situation became a crisis. He is currently leading a tour, winning tournaments, and rebuilding toward a PGA Tour return that will happen on significantly better terms than anyone who waits for the formal collapse to be announced. Donald Trump told the world Reed was still doing great over there. Reed was 7,000 miles away in Dubai, winning a golf tournament, not answering anyone's calls. That gap between what the people defending LIV Golf think is happening and what is actually happening is the real story of where professional golf finds itself right now, and it took one wrong name in a press conference to make it completely visible. There is a video on this channel covering exactly what happens next for the LIV Golf players still waiting to find out if they have a tour to compete on after 2026. That story is the direct follow-up to everything covered here, and it is worth watching next.